Good morning. It is June 20th, and we're about to start to feel the heat. We have had more than enough rain in the northern part of the state to where soils are saturated, standing water, and probably not a great idea to be putting on heavy equipment on any type of surface at the moment. However, sports activities are going to be dialed in and people are wanting to complete activity, so there's probably going to be some conflict ongoing. Ultimately, damage done now is probably going to be seen for the rest of the summer, so it's not an ideal setting as we get into the middle part of the summer period. Online today, we got Dr. Dave Gardner, we got Dr. Wu, and we got the most important part for the next 10 days, Todd Hicks. Dr. Gardner, take it away.
All right. Good morning, everybody. So I was out at the field center this morning looking at plots where I'm getting ready to start some crabgrass post-emergence trials. And this is what that plot area looks like right now. We're mowing this a little bit shorter to make the crabgrass come in a little bit more quickly. And it's about 3 to 4 leaf. So this will begin to tiller next week. As the temperature gets hot next week, the crabgrass is going to go nuts. The other warm season grasses are going to go nuts, and the cool season grass is going to struggle and then, maybe go dormant depending on the rainfall that we get. But crabgrass is, 3 to 4 leaf in close mowed areas and perhaps 2 to 3 leaf in taller cut turf, and then in landscaping beds, it's tillering. But my point is that you'll have different stages of crabgrass growth depending on where you are in the state, but then also on a local scale where you have bare soil or heat sinks like south-facing slopes, the crabgrass is going to be a little bit further along. But it's about time to start thinking about controlling the crabgrass. And the bad news, if you will, is that there hasn't been a lot of innovation with new chemistries for the control of crabgrass. Actually, the last product that came on the market for crabgrass control was topramazone, and that's been more than 10 years. The good news is that if you use the products correctly, you can get pretty effective control of crabgrass. But one of the more popular products is quinclorac. It's sold under a variety of names. Drywood's the original. And if I were to use quinclorac on the plots that I just showed that picture of, 3 to 5 leaf, I can get pretty good control. So that's the darker blue line at the top. But when crabgrass starts to tiller, like it will next week, it becomes, I don't know if you want to call it resistant to the activity of quinclorac or if it's able to grow out of it or what's going on. But the bottom line is that when you use quinclorac by itself on early tillering crabgrass, the results tend to be not favorable. So what the orange line shows is what happened when I applied quinclorac to early tillering crabgrass, and you can see 28 days after, I actually had more crabgrass in the plots that I treated than in the plots that I did not treat, which is not the intended effect. By the time you get to 3 to 5 tiller, the control gets a little better, but after that, 6 to 7 tiller is when control becomes good again. And so there is kind of this unfortunate twist with the timing of the effectiveness of quinclorac applications. The bottom line is that if you're going to use that by itself, you can now, you might need to repeat that in 3 weeks. Oftentimes I tell people it's better to wait until July for control. And in fact, in our testing here, if you use a half of the label rate of quinclorac and then combine that with a half a label rate of either topramazone or mesotrione, that tends to work exceedingly well. You might need 2 applications regardless. But again, if you go out now with your crabgrass control, just be mindful that you may need to repeat that application here in about 3 weeks. The other thing to consider is that quinclorac only controls crabgrass when it comes to post-emergence grasses. And so if you spray and you don't like the control, wait and see what the inflorescence looks like. And if you have foxtail or barnyard grass or goosegrass, quinclorac does not work on any of those grasses. Johnson grass is relatively more rare, but that's another one that we see every now and again that also quinclorac does not have a lot of activity on. And so if you end up with any of those grassy weeds, then phenoxaprop, which is the old Acclaim herbicide, or mesotrione or tipramazone are the herbicides that you're going to want to use to control those grasses. Now, this picture was also taken this morning, and this was from higher up. So when I took the crabgrass picture, I had the camera about 2 feet off of the ground. This one was at head height, and the grass blades are noticeably larger. This is field paspalum. So since this comes in as a perennial and not from seedlings, it tends to develop much more quickly. And so if you see a very coarse textured, large bladed, light green grass, at this time of the year, the overwhelming likelihood is that you have a field paspalum infestation. It'll have a bright white midrib on it, and then also when it goes to seed, the inflorescence is pretty unique on it. If you have field paspalum, tipramazone is the only active ingredient that will give any kind of meaningful control. And that can be applied anytime between now and August, but for best control, you'll want to plan on applying twice 3 weeks apart. Since this is a perennial, though, one of the things that I've observed is that with this application, I can tend to get really good control of the top growth, but all of those underground parts that make it a perennial don't often get totally controlled. And so the field paspalum will come back the following year. So make note of where those areas are and be mindful of that. And that's what I have for today.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner. Dr. Wu.
Good morning, everyone. There's a couple of things I want to mention. First things, annual bluegrass weevil is emerging the first generation adults. So if you do not have a good control program in the spring, you want to put out adulticides targeting the adults of the new generation. However, if you already put out pyrethroids early in the year, and I would suggest you be mindful of repeated applications because that can trigger resistance development. And also another thing I want to mention is that I know that some of you may want to put out treatments for white grubs and also bill bugs. So if you want to target both, mid-June to late June is a good timing for putting out the products in anthracic diamides, except for Central Pro, and also the neonicotinoids are good options for controlling both. And also Dr. David Shatner wanted me to convey a message that he has not seen mischief adults in night trap, but have seen some good numbers of male June beetle adults that started in May and also continue to happen even on every night. And also has seen the grubs from the male June beetles, first installs that's from this year and also second installs from last year. In addition to that, salt webworm adult seems to be pretty common at this time, but common armyworm and black cutworm are very low. So that's what I want to mention.
Thank you, Dr. Wu. The man that everybody's waiting for, Mr. Todd Hicks. What kind of death and destruction are we going to have next week, Todd?
Well, unfortunately, 2 weeks ago, when I warned everybody about a possible weather change and possible disease and destruction and rubbed my hands like an evil genius, I hate to say that it did come true, and this is where we are today. So on on high cut turf, lawn care, they're really starting to struggle with red thread. And if you are struggling with red thread and you want to use a chemical, just know that anything that's infected, whether you're seeing the symptomology or not, is not going to be helpful with this product. 99% of everything we spray is only a protectant. So just because you don't see sign or symptom doesn't mean that turf's already infected. So you may make an application and still get a little bit more disease, but just know that everything that's not got disease right now it still can be protected if you want to run that route. That's the only complaint from high cut right now, although the high cut that I have looked at, it's not hard to find leaf spot if you're looking for it. It's just the turf is growing so fast right now, most people aren't recognizing it because you're mowing off that damage and getting fresh new green turf. That's going to stop with this weather pattern. I think leaf spot will show up in a major way, and people are going to be very surprised how much leaf spot they have due to this humid, wet weather we're having. The other thing that concerns me is brown patch could be much earlier in home lawns this year than ever before. It looks like we talked about the weather before we started this meeting, and the next 10 days up to about July 1st, the nighttime temperatures are super high and humid. The daytime temperatures are super high. And if that humidity sticks and stays and we don't get a breeze to push it out, a breeze, high cut will show up with brown patch much earlier than possible. On the professional side of things, dollar spot has hit a lot of guys harder than normal. It's about the time of year it shows up and not quite this hard. And so a lot of people were going out with sublethal rates, and they weren't quite spraying 2 gallons per thousand on greens or teas. And that those little areas come back and bit them, and so they're dealing with dollar spot already, and it doesn't seem to be able to cure it. Well, we're in a heat pattern now where the grasses are growing. We've already talked about in earlier posts how the turf has very short root systems, very weak. And I warned everybody we're going to get to a position where what you got is what you got, and hang on because it's going to be that way till October. I think we're probably there. I don't see a whole lot of super recovery or super growth happening. So my warning is this: if you don't see dollar spot and you don't see anthracnose or leaf spot, make sure your program is super strong on your greens and teas for those 3 pathogens. A lot of you do a great job right now with dollar spot. I think anthracnose has gotten lost. 5, 8, 10 years ago, it used to be one of our #1 pathogens. The last 2 years, I've seen more anthracnose samples coming into the lab than in the last 5 to 8 years. And this weather pattern, if you're managing POA, is prime for anthracnose. Leaf spot's the other one. So, I would look to my program and make sure it was super strong and I wasn't fooling around with my spray. So spray at 2 gallons per thousand, spray at lethal rates. Culturally, I take a look at what I could do to maybe poke some holes. I mean, Ed talked about not getting on there. Obviously, Northern Ohio fellas, far western folks that got the big bulk of the rain, you guys are going to have to wait to drive a bit. But everybody else, it's semi-dry. If you can poke some slits, holes, whatever you want to open that canopy up, get some air down to the roots, make sure you're getting a good flush with your irrigation and or these rain patterns that come through that turf can breathe. I think your turf health will increase and you'll see a lot less disease than I'm predicting. And I guess the final word is if you're not spraying those phosphites, pennies on the dollar, folks, for what they do. They provide a lot of turf health in general, and they seem to enhance whatever you're spraying fungicide-wise. So get on your phosphite horse and ride it till about October 1st. That's all I got.
Thanks, Todd. I think your background kind of indicates your thought process on where we're going the next 10 days. It looks really, really promising. To follow up on that comment in regards to doing nothing, for the home lawn guys and particularly homeowners, this is not the time where you want to be mowing at a ½ inch or an inch and mowing 3 times a week. Next week, for the homeowners, do nothing. I mean, literally the most beneficial thing you can do if you are a homeowner who likes to mow the grass regularly is turn that switch off and let it sit there during the heat, because it's not going to do much in the way of growth. And if you do go up and mow the hell out of it, you're only going to cause more problems. Todd is correct. The northern part of the state has seen a lot more rainfall, as far as I understand. We're somewhere between 2.5 and 5 inches. So letting things dry out on the professional side obviously will be of benefit. The other thing, most of you are probably looking at me going, where the hell is he? And why does he look like a granddad with that black hat on? Next week, if you've not been looking at the weather forecast, you probably heard about the heat. The other thing is the light intensity and ultraviolet light rays next week are considered to be extreme. The predictions are that somewhere between 8 and 6 p.m., those levels are as intense as I've seen in a long, long time. So protection from the sun is going to be critical, not just for the plants, but for the people that are working for you. Make sure that they're drinking plenty of water, sunscreen, making sure that they're being safe. And of course, with any of these products, if you are applying them and there's any potential for volatility, particularly maybe with the herbicides, do be careful, right? These hot temperatures can lead to more problems than maybe you were thinking about. So when you're handling those products, be careful. With that, with foreboding news and all the terrible predictions, we will leave it for this week, and we hope you all hang on, and we will talk to you next Friday. Thank you.